Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, everybody. So yes, we are a family business, so third generation involved now. So the business is primarily an artisan cider making business. We use apples from our own orchards, which were primarily planted back in the 1970s by Harry's father, Bill. He just planted the orchard as an agricultural crop and had no intention of actually making any cider with it. But then Harry took over the management of the orchard about 15 years ago and thought, well, it would be a shame not to try and make some cider out of the apples that we've got here. So out of the last few apples that were left on the ground, he started to make some cider. It wasn't so good as good as it is now, I must say. So it was a little bit of trial and error to start with. But come 2010, 2011, the process of cider making suddenly all seemed to fall into place and come together. And he started to make some really good product. So we started the business in 2012, and we were very fortunate. We seemed to hit the ground running, and the cider sort of soon started to sell a little bit further afield. We've grown the business very nicely from a 7,000 litre sort of hobby size business initially, which we decided to do because under 7,000 litres you don't pay any cider duty. You could keep it running sort of under that threshold and not get too involved really in the with HMRC. But then as demand grew, we thought, okay, we now need to actually really ramp up. What we hadn't realised at the time was that as soon as you go over that threshold, you have to go much bigger. You can't just go from 7,000 litres up to 10 and then up to 15, because as soon as you start to pay duty, you're paying duty right from that very first litre. So all of a sudden, you've got all this extra cost coming out of your margin. So luckily the product went well, and within 3 years, we were up to 70,000 litres. So it was a massive hike. And we've continued to grow, which is great, until the 23rd of March last year. And then all of a sudden, as you all know, all the hospitality trade fell out of the floor and fell through the floor, and suddenly we had to think, what are we going to do now? We tried to support those few pubs that did stay open or were allowed to stay open or have opened and closed throughout the last 9 months. Quite a few of them have managed to stay open to provide takeaway services. They've adapted perhaps their business models so that they can actually still accommodate as much of their customer trade that they have always had and have built up. But then we had to focus on supporting more of the local farm shops, the off licenses, anywhere that was permitted to stay open. We've been working very hard with and making sure that we could deliver to them on a more regular basis if that's what they were after. We also decided to open from the farm here because we were allowed to. And we open now 6 days a week rather than just 1 day a week. So that's made a big difference. Once people were a little bit more familiar with our opening hours and we had the confidence to come down, we put social distancing measures in place, which of course is vital. And everybody has that respect. Everybody's got used to the new way of shopping, haven't they? And expect to come down prepared to wait if there are other people already being looked after, and it's been very good for us to sort of engage more with local business on our doorstep, and hopefully we shall manage to retain all of that as well. So beyond our farm gate sales, which sort of suddenly then trebled really in income levels, which is great, we then thought we'd got to expand or make the most of online opportunities. So we have our own shop page on our website, and we thought, well, let's try and make a few more products available to people to have a bit more fun. not just selling a tray of cider. Let's put a few different options out there. So we developed a cheese and cider box and are working in collaboration with Barber's Cheesemakers. Of course, Barber's very well known, it's a great brand. So we've had a couple of Insta Live presentations, and that's generated a lot of extra following. We've managed to sell a few of the cheese and cider boxes. And they all take time. Don't get me wrong, it's a different pathway, it's a different sales channel, and you have to be on board with it. You can't just say, well, let's just do this. We had to get our little insulated bubble bags. We had to buy in a little cool pack. We had to adapt our packaging, and obviously you have to order everything well in advance so you've then got a commodity that you're not used to dealing with cheese. And so everyone's got to be on board if you're going to be going down a slightly different sales channel. But that worked really, really well. And then we brought out another couple of sort of short-run product lines as well since then. We had a wassail kit that we had launched a couple of weeks ago. And then fortunately the ITV picked up on that. And so we had a nice little feature on the ITV News last Friday, and that's generated another little flow of orders coming through, and people making lots of comments, sending through some photographs of them doing their own home DIY wassail. So that's been a bit of fun. At the end of the day, we want to have fun, don't we? We want to have a business that we can all enjoy, and hopefully share that enjoyment with other people. So I also found another few different places to actually have our cider for sale through different channels. It took me 7 weeks to get ourselves listed on Amazon, so that was quite a challenge. The difficulty seeming to be actually getting the brand registered through Amazon seemed to take a long, long time. But once we were there, again, it's a new audience. It's an audience that's sort of way beyond our local shores. So that's helped our income streams. There's another company called Ebria, and they are primarily trade website, but they also opened up a retail arm. So all of these additional platforms that we're now trading upon, it's all helped just keep that money ticking through. We all know that we've got to keep the cash flow going, and so even if it's not at the same level as we would like, it all helps. It's meant a lot more work for me, not only on the marketing side, but also the admin side, because suddenly you're accepting payments through all different sorts of channels, and tallying it all up just take me a little bit of time. I must say Amazon are the worst. It is just a nightmare because they hold back some of your money and don't release it until so many weeks later. And so that's just a bit of a challenge, but it keeps the old grey matter going. We also we went back through sort of emails and thought, well, who else have we been sort of knocking on the door of in the past? Who else have we been trying to work with and haven't managed to sort of progress it through into a successful working relationship? And we were invited to take part in a presentation by Morrison's about 3 years ago. Ended up in this funny little village hall in Birtle, I think it was, sort of somewhere I've never been back there, and I couldn't tell you exactly where it is, but off we went. So it was Harry, his son Toby, and myself, and we went with all our ciders and presented these to the Morrison's buyers and the local store managers, and funnily enough, the local WI had been invited to come and taste and rate all of these products that were available on this particular day. And we had some really, really good feedback. But at the time, Morrison's were really looking for suppliers that could meet their price point. And it wasn't for us. We have our price point. We try not to deviate. Obviously, we sell through distributors at a slightly lower price, but that's our price, and that's the way we work. And so anyway, we went back there and we thought, well, we know that Morrison's are one of the supermarkets that have decided to focus on craft. They're interested in stocking craft produce from the local area. And luckily, the buyer was still with Morrison's, and over a period of sort of 4 months, gradually tapping away at it, just keep dropping those emails in, just keep moving it forward. We've now managed to start supplying Morrison's just on a very local level. So we're in our first 3 months of trial, but we're really pleased. We said to them, we can't do your 3 bottles for a £5. That we just it would give us no margin whatsoever. So we offered a price, they accepted it, and off we went. So that was another really good positive outcome to this year. It's the first and probably the only supermarket that we should want to work with. We have contacted Waitrose before, but they don't seem to have the focus on craft and provenance as much as we would like. Whereas I think Morrison's are really championing that. So it's trying to find, isn't it, the right partners to work with that understand your product and are willing to support you. And I must also say that the payment terms are absolutely amazing. For local suppliers, they're paying within a fortnight, which is superb. And there's no cost to holding the product in store, which there's lots of negatives for working for the really big guys. But with Morrison's, this is the price. You submit your invoice, they pay you, job done. So they've been fantastic. We also decided that the previous year we had got so busy, we weren't really kind of keeping pace with everything. Everybody was working such long hours that we've decided that it was time to take on an apprentice. And we decided we weren't so busy in production because we didn't have the sales going out of the door, that we would look for a local apprentice. And he started in September, and he's been a great addition to the team. He cycles in from Curry Rival, so comes in pretty wet sometimes, poor lad. But he's really keen. He only drinks cider. He's got a very good palate, so very good for product development, which he enjoys as well. and he's getting, I think, a really good grounding of not only production. He's involved in dispatch. He's currently out pruning. So every element of the business he's going to get a bit of experience with, and we really hope that he's here to stay. He's going to be part of our team long term. We also have David that helps us in the office, and he's been really good. He's been very good at engaging with customers, built up a good relationship with all of our customers. He's one of those that seems to remember the name of your dog, what the breed of the dog is, or if you've had a rugby accident, he's remembered that you've had the accident and how are you. He's very good, very engaging with all our customers. So he's worked really hard to help keep that relationship going throughout COVID. We've developed some new export markets. There's an awful lot of help out there for anybody wanting to export. Your local trade advisor is there to help you. Ours is called Hilary Charman, and she's fantastic. So there's a huge amount of financial support available through DTI, Department of Trade and Industry, and lots of webinars that they've been putting on, particularly obviously with us going through Brexit. Local council also have lots and lots of resources available, not just funding, but lots of resources to help you and to support you should you need it. I know lots of you here are running your own independent businesses, and you would be my first stop shop as well. But for anybody that hasn't met a lovely group such as yourselves, it's another form of support if people want it. How long would you like me to go on for, Yvonne? You're on mute, Yvonne.
Sorry. Yeah, we still got 5 minutes or so if you want to carry on talking. I think everyone's really interested to hear, and then what we'll do is open up discussion and hear other people's thoughts. Okay, lovely, thank you. So what else have we done? We have got a few new products coming to market again. So we went through last year's harvest. We've still got an awful lot of cider sat in the tanks, because although we've got some nice volumes going out there, the volume
sales aren't there. So all of the big 20-litre boxes going to pubs are still sat in the tanks. So when we came to harvest this year, we didn't have the space in the tanks to put all of our harvested fruit. So we thought, well, what else can we do? Okay, we'll make some apple juice. So beginning of March, we've got a new apple juice range we're going to bring to market. It's relatively small scale for this year, but it's going to be one that we'll launch at the beginning of March. We've also made some apple cider vinegar. So that's another product in due course that we will bring to market. And Toby has got a very, very exciting new product he's been developing for the last couple of years, and that's more like a champagne style cider. Again, very, very small volumes and only going to be available from the farm for this year. But it's something that he's worked really hard with, and he's got a fantastic label he's put together. So that's coming through into market. And I think we shall continue to work as hard as we can with local businesses. I think there's so much more support for local farm shops that maybe wasn't there before. I think there's lots of reports saying that perhaps 30% of new customers that have started supporting their local farm shops will continue to support them. I think everyone's shopping habits have changed somewhat. And confidence is gradually building back up again, but I think the online marketing focus is going to be a strong one for all of us as we go forward. So yes, I will put a little bit of well done, Harry Cider. We have got through as a finalist in this year's Somerset Business Awards, so that's all very exciting. Just a shame that we shan't be able to go to big old knees up at Weston-super-Mare with everybody else. We shall all have to sit at home and raise a glass for a virtual celebration of that. But the award side is a really, really important element, I think, with your business. If you can get a few awards to support you, to give you that recognition. Harry himself was very negative about getting making the effort to enter any ciders in any competitions, but he soon realised when we did start to do quite well that they are hugely important. So we will continue to give all of those a bit of a shot and to continue to keep the awards up to date.
Brilliant, thank you. I think there's been some amazing advice there, Alison, for all of us actually. Yeah, it's been great to hear everything that you've done. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask Alison or comments?
I have a question. Just interested really, so you've diversified loads, you know, within your product range. Are they things that you were planning on doing and the situation brought all of that forward, or are these things that because of the situation you just decided, right, we need to do something?
Well, in fairness, we had been thinking about bringing a few new products to market. Apple juice will never be our main focus. Cider is still going to be our main focus. But it just seemed for last year, if we were going to do it, that was the year to start to do it. That was the year to trial it. We had the time, we had the product. And so if you were going to give it a go at all, of course, you don't want to launch something without trialing it first. So we have just been having a few bottles go through the farm gate shop, and the feedback's been really, really positive. So we thought, fine, let's make use of our time right now, and you probably saw lots of stories of apples being left on the ground because none of the cider makers had any space, and a lot of the growers that had contracts with Magners were being asked to leave their apples on the ground. They were paid for them, but they weren't actually harvested because no one's got the space to hold the fruit or to hold the cider. So it was really nice not to leave all of your hard-earned product on the ground. We could pick it up and actually make use of it.
Yeah, brilliant. No, it's brilliant. It's quite an inspiring story, so well done.
Thank you. Yeah.
Fantastic work there, and actually you gave a really good message of, you know, sort of going back to all your old clients as well, and I think that's a good reminder for all of us, in that actually to make sure we're not leaving money on the table, because there are people out there who it might not have been the right time at the time, but actually it becomes the right time later. And actually I found the same, just following up all my old clients. I've managed to get extra work, and sometimes you forget that you've met people or had a discussion with somebody, so actually keeping on top of that's so important.
Yes, and I think as well, Yvonne, with retail in particular, although managing staff quite often stay in one place for a few years, a lot of the other staff, people change jobs, people move, don't they? And so there's one particular farm shop just down on the Somerset Devon border that we dropped into a few times, and it was just the wrong day or the wrong time, or the buyer wasn't there, and Harry called in there, happened to find the right girl, the right day, the right time, and suddenly we're in. And it's a lovely little farm shop. And somebody else mentioned CRM earlier. We do have to keep going back over and over all those potential leads in our CRM, and it does take a lot of time, as you say, a lot of time nurturing some of these relationships, but it is worth the time and effort that you spend on it.
Do the farm shops or anyone need to have a special license to sell alcohol, or can they just sell it?
No, they do need a special license, as do we. You have to have a premises license in order to sell any alcohol at all. So some will make that conscious decision that actually they won't go through the rigmarole of getting licensed with the council. And each council seems to vary on how particular they are on the training and the courses that proprietors need to take in order to obtain their license. So some people are quite put off by that, because particularly if they don't know how much volume they're going to be selling of alcohol and how much of their shop do they want to devote to alcohol and have to pay this extra cost in order to stock it. So it is quite a conscious decision they need to make.
So you were talking about Morrison's and taking the stance against. I used to be from the dark side. I used to be a supermarket buyer years and years ago. So you do well to stand your ground. However, it's quite often with these things that when they do the 3 for £5 or the deals that they do shift the volume. So at least it gives you an opportunity to establish a rate of sale with Morrison's, which hopefully will be good. But it just thought, if you've got what's the word, vats, but you've got huge stocks of cider kind of sat there, whether you consider doing some kind of entry-level cider that they could do a promotion on.
Yes, I think what we're going to do, Andy, we've got a review at the end of 3 months. At the end of this month, we should have this review with them. And yeah, what we tend to do, if we start with a new customer, we will say, well, pop it on the shelf to start with. Get people familiar with seeing the product first. They'll have it in their mind. If they haven't got the confidence to buy it at, as you say, your entry-level price, then bring in a promotion, because they already know it's there. And then if they say, oh, it's on offer, I might try it now. So yes, that's exactly what we're hoping to do, is actually we'll run a promotion. Hopefully, springtime's quite a good time to offer a promotion on cider. As the weather hopefully will start to warm up again, people will start to think, I'd like a cold drink, I don't want a hot drink. So yes, thank you for suggesting that. We shall.
When it's still in the vats, does its ABV increase?
No, because when you make cider, the ABV is all relative to the amount of sugar content in the apple, and the amount of sugar content in the apple is influenced by the amount of sunshine that you've had during the growing season. So a couple of years ago, when we had the most amazing summer, quite late on when the apples were really maturing before we harvested them, we had some cider that was suddenly up at 7.5%, whereas normally the ABV is about 6. Well, lovely as it is to have a 7.5% cider, you're not going to drink too many pints of that, are you? If you've got to drive home. So it's actually quite a challenge if you have a 7.5% cider. So I could just tell you a little bit about what we did do in one of those years when we had a very high ABV cider. We decided to also press some of those, a variety called Dabinet, which we grow quite a lot of, and we pressed some of those apples and pasteurized the apple juice, so it didn't ferment. So you actually had this Dabinet apple juice. And then when we came to actually, we combined the apple juice with a 0% ABV with the cider at a strong ABV. So then you were bringing back the ABV of the cider, you were naturally sweetening it, so no added sugar. And actually that ended up becoming our brand leader. So it's really interesting what you can do. Here's a potential problem, well, what can we do to resolve it? And then actually it really did work brilliantly well. And it actually ended up being the Supreme British Champion in 2018. So a fantastic outcome.
And really great to hear that actually when you're faced with a problem, you've come up with such an amazing solution. I think that's a lesson to us all, isn't it?
It followed a previous problem we'd had years ago when we were really early stage cider makers, and Harry had bought these barrels, wooden barrels, and he wanted to mature some cider, so we'd get this nice oaked tasting cider. Well, little did he realise that the barrels had been used to store port in previously. Well, of course, you've got port, a lovely dark red, rich coloured port, gets into the wood of the barrel, and no matter how much you try to clean the barrel, you still retained a little bit of the colour. So then we boxed this cider. Oh my word, it's like pink. What on earth are we going to do with a pink cider? And we spoke to a guy that was selling some cider for us and said, no worries at all, he said, we'll call it Blush. He says, so we suddenly had this product and it was called Blush, and do you know, it sold out so quickly that actually that taught us a lesson. So that was our first way of looking at something and thinking, how can you make a positive out of what at the moment looks a negative?
Thank you. Laura,
yeah, sorry. I'm sorry if I missed this, Alison. I had to pop out to deal with the children for a second. With regards to like the supermarkets especially, do they go through some kind of tasting tests, or do they kind of take your word for it on the product, or do you have to submit a certain amount that they taste and review? How does that part work?
Well, at the outset, Laura, we had been invited to this presentation, so all the buyers and the local managers actually tasted our product at this presentation. I think, as you say, yes, normally you would expect to send off a sample.
Yeah.
So we're quite used to sending off a sample box to the buyers so that they can all taste and rate it together. Mm-hmm. And then if it's something that they think is going to move forward, then they'll take it on. We certainly did that with Majestic Wine. So we were with Majestic Wine several years ago. Then they all had a company sort of shake up with Naked Wines, and suddenly they dropped us. Yeah. And it was another revisit, that buyer again, all of last summer. And they were very negative. They were very reluctant to bring us back in. But eventually they did, because I said, look, you've got to craft Somerset cider, look at the awards it's won. So that's where the awards came in. You know, you really must stock a really good premium local artisan cider. You're in Somerset, the heart of ciderland. And so eventually it was, okay, yeah, we'll have you back again. But it does take a long, long time to
I've got a small vineyard in Dorset, so it's on my parents' land, and we're at the point now where our first harvest is ready to be released. It is really small, but we're at the stage, and last year we were meant to sort of go for it, but we just didn't bother. But actually we're all completely clueless. I mean, I sort of know business, but I don't know this business, so I'll be really keen to talk to you at some point, Alison, and find out, yeah, your first steps. That would be really useful if you'd be happy to chat through at some point.
Yeah, absolutely, Laura. Yeah, more than happy. Yeah.
Thank
you. Does anyone from the hospitality areas want to have any comments as to learning or things that you've done within your areas?
Only really that we're very keen at the IBIS to focus on provinciality and get some local producers and partner. Unfortunately, because of the keepers kitchen and bar, we do have more free reign on local producers. Whereas one of the things I found frustrating at my previous role was that we just didn't have any real opportunity to do that. Which I think was such a shame. So yeah, I have messaged Alison to say it'd be great to catch up just to see. But we're partnering with the Black Bee company for honey, White Lakes cheese. We are stocking Thatchers, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't do sort of specials with other sort of ciders. And Granny Gothard's ice cream, I believe we're doing as well. So we're trying to sort of do what we can. Obviously, being a small chain restaurant, it's difficult. You still have to have the consistency and the standards that people expect of that. But we can draw things into our specials in order just to promote. And I think Bridgewater and the area needs this food and drink focus to get people to start staying in Somerset instead of just passing through us all the time. So I think that's one of my roles as the director of sales, to try and do what I can to support that, really.
Brilliant, thank you. I think there's been a massive amount of learning from this, Alison, so thank you so much. I think for all of us, there's some lessons in terms of reconnecting with people, perhaps repackaging up what we do with something else, and just getting out there and doing things a little bit different to reach our audience. So thank you so much.